Hi, everybody, and welcome back to La Capricornia with me, Priscilla Moreno. For this episode, I do want to talk about how we need to stop trying to control everybody else and really just let them live their own lives, focus on themselves, and do what's best for them, the same way that we do it for ourselves. And one of the things that made me think about this was somebody was going back and forth in some comments, and they actually made this comment. They were like, "Oh, you're one of those people that like to put boundaries but don't like when others put them on you." And um it made me really think about it. And you know even subconsciously, sometimes we don't realize that we are pushing people, or we are not letting people be themselves. And it can be anything, especially as a parent. I know we tend to do this a lot, and it's not, sometimes we don't realize, like, hey, we're doing it. I think it sometimes can come off to other people, or even to our own kids, as in, like, oh my gosh, like malicious, or we're just being, the most horrible parent ever. In our minds, we think we're doing the right thing, and there are times where we definitely have to learn to back off. We have to learn, hey, they need to grow up too. They need to learn from their mistakes. They need to learn from their choices. And I'm not saying just let your kids go out there and be wild, but we definitely do have to find that balance, right? So for the choices that are definitely not going to lead them into like a dangerous path, if you can stop that, definitely, I would say something, right? But there are times where sometimes we just have to be like, okay, like that's fine. And perfect example of this is, again, going back to the kids. There are plenty of people that I hear that will say, I don't like the career my kid has chosen. I don't like that my kid decided to do this with their life. I don't like that my kid is dating this person, or that they do this with their kids, or that, and you hear all these things. And at the end of the day, I'm like, is it really bothering you? And I'm not saying it in a bad way. Like, really think about it. Is it really bothering you? Is it really going to hurt you? If he doesn't want to do this, but he does this, and he turns out 10 times better, because again, I can't tell the future, but 10 years from now, when he's, doing his thing, am I going to be the person who's like, you know what, he was right? Or am I going to be the person still upset that he didn't choose the right path? Because there are people out there, right, that really get upset because they didn't choose the right path according to me. He chose the right path according to him. And so that's one thing that I think it made me kind of think of too, like the boundaries, even with children in relationships. I know sometimes we tend to, talk to our partner about things. And even though, yes, we're supposed to be a unit, we're supposed to do things together, there are times where maybe, hey, my partner's going to choose something that is not something maybe I would have chosen. And instead of, letting them learn from these mistakes or anything, I'm going to get upset, right? Because, oh, this is, it should have been common sense, it should have been obvious, or whatever it was. But at the end of the day, we all think differently, and we definitely have to respect each other for it, and we all have different paths. So, depending on what choices other people make, especially in those kind of situations like relationships, and again, I'm talking about small things, not, bigger issues. Is it really something that's going to like hurt me? If it's not, it's fine. It's totally fine. And sometimes I feel like we make things bigger than they should be sometimes. And it's not that I'm discrediting anyone, but we also have to realize about the times we don't speak up and put our expectations out there, right? So if my expectation is that we should always be together on a Sunday, right? And Sunday's like the family day or whatever it is. And then, I've never said it. I've never said it. It just happened by coincidence that we have had this Sunday. Well, if one day, my partner's like, oh, I'm going to do this instead. And I'm just like, oh, how dare you do this on this? And I never said anything. Like I said, it was just by coincidence, by fate, that it always worked out fine. And I just get triggered by it, and I get so upset. And at the end of the day, I mean, what did I tell this person anything about this? No. Did I like make it like would it really be common sense if I've never actually told this person, like, hey, for sure this day is just like an us thing? Um, it's not always so common sense, right? It's common sense to me because that was my expectation. But again, maybe just, for them, it's not. Like, yeah, we do hang out every Sunday, but then, in their mind, they're like, well, we live together. We hang out every day. Like, again, it all goes down to perspective. It goes down to the expectations we put on other people. And we definitely have to realize that, you know, sometimes we just have to let others be, like, even in that decision, right? Just be like, okay, when you really think about it and you see, like, hey, this is something I put on myself, you have to let other people, choose their own path too. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't, if maybe we speak to him, then obviously that person is going to stay there Sunday. But I mean, if they go out, it's not such a big deal. Maybe, okay, going forward, you guys change that to keep it that Sunday, or you switch days or something, right? So it's definitely, again, like I'm saying, it's just the expectations we put ourselves out there on other people. We have to realize that not everyone is going to meet them. And like I said, it can become such a huge thing. And then we start trying to control it, right? Even down to how people react or how they should act on certain things. Um, Last week we had a meeting where we were talking about, like, hey, opening presents. And it's funny because it made me think about a certain situation with me as well. So I am such a huge person when it comes to, you know, gifts. I am a gift giver, but it has to be something meaningful to me, right? So personally, that's how I am, right? If I gift you something, like, it's because I know you. I'm gonna get something that's your favorite color. It's something that you have been wanting. Maybe it's something you mentioned. It's a reference to something that you like. But personally, I get so proud of my own gifts that I give somebody because I'm like, yeah, like, I paid attention to this person. I went for the details. There's something meaningful. And, you know, maybe I gifted to this person expecting them to be over the moon over this gift, right? And they're just kind of like, "Oh, cool, this is nice." And I'm just like, that's your favorite band, like, or that's your favorite thing, or this is what you've wanted, like, I expect something way more, like, oh my gosh, not that I expect there to be, a party for me. I was more as in, like, I want them to react like happy. I want them to be happy. I want to see the joy on their face of just being like, oh my gosh, and at the end of the day, that's my expectation. That's my expectation. Not everybody's gonna act like that. Not everybody's open like that. And sometimes, hey, maybe they're trying to be nice and not tell me, like, oh, maybe they used to like that and they don't like it anymore, or maybe they wanted it and they got it and they're just trying to be nice and not tell me that, hey, I got it and you need to return this. So there can be so many situations, right? And in honesty, at the end of the day, who cares? Like, you did what you did, and if the energy is being sent back to you, it's being sent back to you. And we need to accept that the energy is going to come back to us, and it might not always be in the way that we, again, specifically wanted to come back to us, and we have to be okay with that. And another way, too, I feel that we don't let other people be themselves is, we tend to, and I get it, we do things for ourselves when it comes to it, but sometimes we tend to just be like, no, if it isn't this way, it's just not gonna get done at all, instead of trying to work with them, right? And I'm not saying you have to break down your boundaries, because again, like I'm talking about, these are for small things, these are for, like, everyday things, these are not for bigger issues. There are sometimes, things that you have to, like, okay, let's hash this out, and find the middle for us. Sometimes some people are like, nope, it has to go this way, or it's like, over, or we have this expectation, that we want others to understand. And then again, it goes back to, maybe it's always worked up to a certain point, but it's just not working out for this one thing, and that one thing is going to be the thing that's going to make us flip. So we definitely sometimes do have to be okay with finding that middle ground, being okay with it. And, if it really is something that you cannot live with, then okay, you cannot live with it, make that known as well. Again, that's why you're having these conversations with other people and letting them know what your expectations are, Definitely one of the biggest things, and we all say it all the time, you guys, is communication. Communication is the downfall to like every relationship, friendship, anything, right? And if you don't have that, or you're putting those expectations out there, or just letting other people be who they are, that's where things fail. That's where things aren't going great. And if there's anybody out there that disagrees with it, I definitely want to hear your perspective on certain things. Again, this is just my opinion and how I'm seeing things. But that's my little rant for this week. It's definitely with the holidays coming up, and just maybe even like with family gatherings and things like that. We need to stop putting these expectations on how we want others to be. Let them be themselves. And hey, if it really bothers us to that point, unfortunately, maybe those people are just not meant for your lives. And I know that comes a little harsh because it could be family members, but if it's going to bother your peace that much, then that is where you need to also look at what decisions you need to make for yourself. Okay, so now I'm gonna go over your guided message. Okay, so for the first card, you do have the Seven of Cups in reversed. Okay, so for the Seven of Cups in reversed, I do feel like you have many things coming your way right now. And sorry, that's kind of what kind of got my attention, because I heard like a really loud, like, I don't know, it feels almost like you have so many things, so many ways you can go. I feel like you have like decisions where things are just popping up and you're trying to decide, okay, which way should I go? It's almost like you're like, okay, this is what I have, right? And it could be money, it could be energy, it could be anything, and you're like, should I go this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, right? And you're seeing something in every way. Like, you're seeing something, right? So if you're like, hey, maybe it is money, right? And you're like, if I invest in this, starting my own business, you know, you start seeing like, hey, there's this opportunity to start your own business, or there's an open market, or somebody just offered you to go into business with them. So you're seeing this, right? But then you were also thinking, well, what if I buy a new car? Let's say you've been having issues with your car and this and that. And then you start seeing all these cars, your favorite car, and it's actually not that bad priced, and and blah blah blah. And then you're also thinking about this, and you know what I mean? There are now 4, 5, 6, 7 different ways you can invest what you have in all different ways, and you see a positive outcome for all of them, right? You see a positive outcome for all of them. You've done maybe like you've been kind of like, okay, I've been looking at all this, and this is what I'm seeing right now, right? And everything's coming out great. And in honesty, you probably could have a positive outcome in all of them, but now you're stuck trying to decide, which way do I move? And it's something that you shouldn't take lightly. I feel like you do have a lot of opportunities, and they all are bringing abundance, and it's good. It's great when you have so many options, right? Because I know sometimes it can be a pain when you're like, I have no options. But I definitely feel from this that you really need to ground yourself. You really need to kind of cut down those decisions and see what's really aligned with you right now. What do you need the most? Because, like I said, anything can work out when you put your energy towards it. But what do you need the most right now? Like, what is going to benefit you in the long run? And I think that's more the message of where that is coming from. Like, is cutting down those choices. Like, hey, so in honesty, the three main ones right now that are going to work out is this, right? Because if you were to invest in this, you're also going to need blah blah blah, and you haven't done this part yet, or whatever it is, right? So you need to start thinking in that direction. Okay, your next card is the Justice card. So again, I feel like you have to choose something that is going to bring you like something in the long run, right? Like, whatever choice you're going to make right now, this is going to affect you in the long run. So it almost feels like it doesn't matter what choice you pick, it's going to affect you long ways. And but I do feel like you definitely have to pay attention to it, because it's not going to be easy either. Like, I don't think whatever choices are popping up for you right now, I don't think that it's easy for you, but it's going to be something that, again, you're gonna have to fight for, you're gonna have to go after, but it's not easy. It's gonna affect you in the long run, and it's probably gonna be positive, but it's just cutting down to see what's aligned with you right now, to see what's right for you, and going in that direction. Because I feel like it's telling you, like, whatever you choose, it's going to affect everything, right? It really feels like life changing almost, which is pretty amazing, because to be very honest with you, it's resonating with me on a certain choice I have to make right now. So it definitely is going to affect me long term wise, and I definitely have to make sure that I have a clear perspective when it comes to that. And your last card is the Tower card, which, again, I know it's scary looking, but it's not. It means the end of one thing, and it brings in new beginnings. And honestly, when combined with this card, I do feel that it might feel, it's almost like a rough patch. I feel like no matter which way you go, it's going to be a little rough, but you definitely have to push through it. Things are changing. I wouldn't be afraid of just seeing something that doesn't look 1,000% positive, because sometimes the path less traveled is the path for you. But definitely, I do feel like maybe it might, the choice that you might see, you might be like, oh my gosh, this is not this is not the most appealing. This is not the best looking. This is, you know, like maybe you're looking at this tower like, oh, I don't want this tower. It's on fire. There's all this stuff going on, but it's ending. And so what you can do, obviously, once the flames are out and everything like that, you can totally rebuild on this. You can totally rebuild on this, right? So even though I might have been like, oh, I don't like this tower, you know, but you're going to rebuild this tower, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be exactly what you want. It's going to be the path and your life choices of what you have been manifesting, what you have been wanting, you are wanting to put out there. So it's basically you building it back up is what I'm getting. And then for your guided card for all that, it is Manifesting Miracles, Archangel Orion. Thank you, Orion, for manifesting your miracles in my world. So again, I do feel like I said with the Tower card, I feel like you're building back something exactly how you want it. It's what you've been manifesting. And sometimes we tend to manifest things, and then we judge it. Like, oh, it didn't come in this way, or it didn't come fast enough, or I expected, again, expectations, you guys, for my life to be this way by the time I was this old. But you took a rough patch. But even now, looking at like where you're at now and after going through that rough patch, I think you start realizing like how far you've come, how much better you are for it, and you are the person you are right now because of it. I do feel like it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but it's bringing good things for you. It's manifesting the things that you want, and it's leading to something long-term wise that is going to be amazing for you guys. Okay, you guys, that's it for me this week. Sorry, I can't talk now. That's it for me this week. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. And again, if you guys have anything you want to add to the topic I just talked about, or any questions, anything like that, don't be afraid to reach out. But other than that, have a great week, and bye-bye.